Hi, I'm Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
We're not from Memphis, but we love it.
Welcome to Memphis Type History, the podcast.
Hey, Rebecca.
I'm sorry. Okay. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, Rebecca.
How are you?
I am good.
Okay.
All right. So this is our second intro. That's why, but the first one was super awkward. This one's less awkward, so we're going to go with that. And let's dive in because I am going to give you some background on an episode that we actually recorded together in Memphis in June. We took a tour of Tramica Bridges' home in the Glenview District, Glenview Historic District, in fact. And the tour was awesome. Her house is very historical. She tells us about the people who used to live there, and we look all around. But what we didn't talk a ton about with her was her neighborhood.
Yeah. Which, for the record, was beautiful. It's right off of Lamar.
Yes.
On the right side.
It's called Glenview. And like I said, we did talk about it a little bit, but then I was looking into it more, and I came up with like pages and pages of stuff to tell you about it.
Great. Let's hear it.
I think before we play our interview with Tameka and before we play our tour, it would be good to talk about this history of the Glenview Historic District.
Please do.
This neighborhood was established in 1908, and it's made up of actually like the historic district as it's now designated since either 1999 or 2000 is made up of two neighborhoods, the Glenview Neighborhood and the Edgewood Manor Neighborhood. But now it's just the Glenview Historic District. As you said, it's beautiful. So the borders are South Parkway East, Burlington Northern Railroad to the west, Southern Avenue on the north, and Lamar Avenue on the east. And then it used to be that the southern border, which is now South Parkway East, was Foster Avenue, and the western boundary was 12 lots west of Barksdale Street. But that's, I guess, changed. But the reason I want to mention that is because I did find an article from many years ago that said that the original concrete streetlights from 1926 with these like glass domes are still there at that southern boundary of Barksdale.
Okay. The original light, street lights.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if they're still there because I didn't know to go look for them when I was in Glenview, and I'm now in Shanghai. But if anyone happens to know, and a really old article said they're there, so maybe they're still there. But I thought that was cool, 1926 streetlights.
Yeah.
Glenview is a really good example of early suburbanization. And I know we wouldn't necessarily think of it as a suburb now, but back in the early 1900s, it would have been of Memphis. And so it was built as part of the Memphis Parkway system.
What is that?
So the Memphis Parkway system is why we have the parkways. So they were designed to be a route around the perimeter of the city. And it was supposed to be really scenic and like nice. And it was designed by a really famous landscape architect, George Kessler. And so basically this was a way to make a beautiful city. It was part of something called the City Beautiful movement. Mm-hmm. And the purpose was to make use of what's called street furniture. So like lampposts, parks, things like that to beautify areas. And so you have suburbs like Glenview that were popping up around that time, and they incorporated a lot of those elements like parks, really nice lampposts, that sort of thing. It's got houses from the 1910s to the 1940s, but some as recent as 1997. And I'm going to run through the styles of homes in the area really quick because I know people who really enjoy architecture and home history. And if you want to go take a drive, these are the types of homes that you'll find.
Yeah, they are real different.
Yeah. Craftsman bungalow, American Foursquare, Colonial Revival, Tudor Revival, Spanish Colonial Revival, Minimal Traditional, Cottage Style, and Good Old Ranch Style.
Now, was that from oldest to youngest?
No.
Okay.
I got I should say this, I got all the information I'm going to share here from a website called livingplaces.com, which if you go there, it is a weird website, and it does not seem like the history website that it is. It's very hard to understand what it is. I don't know. It's a very strange website, but they have compiled very detailed histories of many neighborhoods around the U.S. And they reference a lot of like press seminar articles and things like that. So it seems legit. I took most everything from there. Unfortunately, this is one of those situations where if I could have just gone over to U of M and like read through a lot of press seminar stuff, that would have really been better. But I'm kind of limited to what I can find online. So pretty much everything comes from livingplaces.com. And I'll put the link in the show notes because there's so much that I can't even cover that any interested party could go read. It gets deep.
Yeah. I can go back down by there and take some pictures too.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great.
Of the neighborhood.
Yeah. I only got like 1 or 2, I think. So that'd be awesome.
I can't guarantee that I'll get a picture of every type of house that you just listed.
No.
That'd be a bit of a scavenger hunt. But I'll do my best.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Some of that. There should be some really cool Spanish. I think the Spanish ones should be really cool.
Yeah. Actually, people want to contribute and send us a house of either of those categories would be great.
Yeah. Send us your pictures. See it. Maybe you could see if those lampposts are still there. I'd like to.
Yeah.
So that's a long list of different types of houses, but it's actually, and you'll remember this from being there, there is a harmony to it all. Like everything does still seem like it really goes together, and that was planned.
Yeah.
Architects and planners who were making these neighborhoods and these suburbs at the time were really focused on organic unity, coherent style, and just making sure like everything was in harmony.
Yeah.
In addition to like having harmony in the style of homes and like the size of them and how they're represented in the neighborhood, the layout of the streets in Glenview is also particularly interesting. It's one of the first neighborhoods in Memphis, I guess, or like it's in that first wave of neighborhoods that were built for cars.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's got
that explain. The thing that stands out to me the most, that I remember the most, is how beautiful the front yards were and the amount of space that they had, which makes me think like, okay, the deep driveways probably, or you know, and the street was really wide too, which it was visually nice to have that wide street.
They're wide and tree lined, which we're about to get to the nature, like why the nature it looks the way it does there. But those wide streets, and it's like Glenview has a particular type of grid pattern. There are like some curves in the road and things like that because cars could drive on curves. Whereas like street cars can only go in straight lines. So you get a grid pattern of a neighborhood, but it has these like curves in the road that differentiate it from like former neighborhood designs. And these curves and this like wide street and the trees and all of that was because neighborhood making in the early 20th century really emphasized, like I said, harmony and also blending in natural elements. So curves in the road are kind of like country roads, sort of pastoral. It's organic feeling. And then you have parks and things like that inside the neighborhood. So it's an interesting blend of like early 20th century neighborhood making and creation and architecture. And also you can see how the introduction of the automobile changed how cities were being designed. Yeah,
that is interesting. But the intention and motivation of the park was for the community to be able to walk to the park though, or no?
Yeah, it was for use. Like the parks are for use. There's also a little commercial area in that neighborhood. And so it was really meant, like everything was kind of designed for you to be able to live your life there, which we've seen in other neighborhoods throughout history in Memphis. So yeah, parks, little like hair places, teaser for a future episode, Clarence Saunders' store is in Glenview, actually.
Hey.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Originally, white middle-class people lived in this neighborhood, which we learned from Tramica. So I'm going to kind of run through some of that history. It was small business owners, craftsmen, professionals like bookkeepers, salespeople. There really weren't any African Americans in that neighborhood up until the 1960s. I mean, they would be like sanitation workers or work crews or domestic help or something like that. They wouldn't have been living there. 2 former Memphis mayors lived there, one named H.H. Liddy, 1917 to 1918, and Rowlett Payne, 1920 to 1928. In the mid-1930s, there was an amateur theater group who did summer performances in a home called Rose Arbor, owned by Alice G. Roseborough, and that was at 1780 Glenview. And one interesting thing about this is that on July 12th, 1935, the Rose Garden Players, as they were called, put on a Tennessee Williams play. The first one, in fact.
The very first. Look at that.
Yeah. His first play. He was actually studying at Southwestern College. So anyway, they did his play called Cairo, Shanghai, Bombay.
I remember that. I remember Tramica telling us about that.
Yeah. So those are some facts about the early period of Glenview. But an interesting thing is that the demographics of the neighborhood changed completely from the 1960s onward, because now it's a historically Black neighborhood. So we're going to kind of get into how that shift happened now. Mm-hmm. So after World War II, we had the Depression era, World War II, and finally the economy starts to come back after World War II. And so that's when a lot of the work towards equality in the African American community really revived, along with, coming out of the Depression, coming out of the war. And a new generation of leaders were taking on strong leadership roles in their neighborhoods and churches and furthering a lot of activism in the 50s and 60s. And we're going to see that play out in Glenview. So there's a lot of historical context of the U.S. and Memphis going on at this time. And because we have a whole next part of this episode to play, I can't get into all of it. I tried to pick the highlights just to at least give some, broader context. So some of the stuff going on in 1955 in particular is that civil rights attorney A.W. Willis Jr., who we learned about for the book related to Universal Life Insurance Company, he established mutual federal savings and loan companies so that African Americans could get home mortgages. So he was really instrumental in creating African American home buyers in Memphis. And so that, along with the bigger political stuff going on, set the stage for integration in Glenview.
There you have it.
Right. But it didn't happen easily.
Of course not.
As we can guess.
Yeah.
As soon as rumblings began that African Americans were going to possibly move into this neighborhood, a few residents started the Glenview Plan, Inc., which was a corporation by white homeowners in the area in which they would, and I don't understand how this worked, but they would buy some kind of stocks, and that would help them have money to buy homes that other white people were putting up for sale in order to buy it from them and keep it and only sell it to another white person.
The houses within that neighborhood?
Yeah. So they were trying to basically keep houses off the market, I guess, so that they could control who they sold them to.
By a stock kind of system?
Yeah, somehow they bought stocks to fund these purchases. I don't really understand how it worked. So I did have a quote that I found on this website from a Press Submitter. No, not necessarily from Press Submitter, from a 1956 newspaper article. It might have been Press Submitter, it might be something else. And the attorney who helped found this corporation, he said it was to have a legal entity which can properly deal with the repurchase of property, to let people know that Glenview is a good place to live in, and to take further steps so that this sort of thing won't be coming up again. So we've got the Glenview Plan, Inc. going on with white homeowners who are trying whatever they can do to keep Black homeowners out.
So strange, but not really.
Yeah. But the first Black family moved in anyway.
Yeah.
I can tell you about them.
You know who they are?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, tell us about them.
I do. And I know who the second and the third are, too.
All right.
Yeah. So the first was Reverend Charles H. Bob Mason Jr. and his family. He was the pastor of the Church of God in Christ, which was partly founded by his dad, Bishop Charles H. Mason. And this is one of the largest Pentecostal churches in the nation and the largest Pentecostal congregations in Memphis. So he was a very influential person.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. In 1956, he purchased the house at the house that was at 1755 Glenview Avenue. And I'm a little hazy on the timeline here. I think he purchased it, and then the Glenview Civic Club had a meeting and asked him to sell the house to some white people instead.
He was asked to sell the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the story goes, he was okay, fine. I don't want to have all this trouble about moving in. So he waited something 18 months to move in. But there was never a sale. Like, the Civic Club never arranged for him to sell it to somebody else. So in February 1958, him and his family moved in.
Okay.
So that's how the story goes, like, on this, like I said, website that I found. So first they get a threatening letter.
Oof.
Then a cross is burned in their yard.
Wow.
And then Alice Roseborough, the Rose Garden Players lady, Tennessee Williams play, I found a quote from her in the Press Scimitar article about the Glenview Plan, Inc. And it says, and this was like right after the cross burning, it says, he agreed to sell it to us at first, but now he says he will not. We have done everything we could to be polite and courteous about this, but now the people out here are inflamed.
Wow. And this was in the 60s?
1958.
50, yeah.
It gets worse.
Okay.
So a week after that, Mason's church burns down.
No.
Yeah. And the police would not rule it as an arson, although obviously it was suspected to be, and I guess pretty much assumed to be. That's the feeling I got. Especially because then a month later, his home was burned to the ground.
The home in Glenview.
Yeah. And the fire department did not rule out arson in that case. They said it was possible.
It was possible. Did they really say it like it's possible?
Yeah. His family was staying elsewhere because of all the other stuff going on. Like, he had a rock thrown through his window, like, obviously the church being burned down, like, all that stuff. So, like, no one died, but his home was burned down.
How long did they live through this? Do you know?
Not very... I don't think they lived there very long because they moved in 1958, and then I don't have dates here, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Gosh, I'm sure just even a month felt like forever, you know, to be living in those kind of conditions.
Yeah, I mean, the residents would they resorted to violence often. Like, they put signs up to try to scare off black home buyers, and the sign said, "Cross Burning Row, Luxury Homes." So I can't, like, even with all that going on, like liquor bottles being thrown in yards. I mean,
the signs. Yeah,
the signs, like, some teenagers set off a bomb in Mason Jr.'s front yard at some point. Like, even with all that going on, like, there is some documentation I think the Press Scimitar particularly covered this issue over several articles. And I did see there is some documentation that there was some conflict between two camps in the neighborhood. These like Glenview Plan, Inc. people who are like really trying to keep black people out. And then like some people who just wanted to move and sell a home or like weren't like into all the intimidation tactics. But as we'll see as we go through, I mean, people are overall beginning to sell their homes because like the 1 or 2, 3 like first black families moved in. And so they're like trying to get out while it getting's good is kind of what their mentality is about all that.
Because they really felt like it was, and I don't mind even saying this on the podcast because honestly, Caitlin, I didn't even know that this had still existed until I moved to Memphis and I understood the Southern culture and people said white flight happened and I was like, I can see the evidence of it. And hearing stories like this, which weren't that long ago, you know, the 50s and 60s, that wasn't that long ago.
And I mean, I know like, because I read, you know, articles, commentary written by people of color, like they still experience animosity often when they move into neighborhoods that aren't really that integrated yet. I mean, even today, maybe no one's burning crosses in their yard, although I bet that has happened.
Apparently, that stuff still exists.
Yeah, exactly.
in this past year, I'm realizing how,
Yeah, like, I'm confident there are plenty of places where, like, crosses have been burned in yards, like, in recent years. I'm sure that that's happened. But, like, it is crazy. But, like, people still, at minimum, can still feel a lot of animosity or, like, I've read of people saying, like, it feels uncomfortable to be the first family to move into the neighborhood. But if you want to live in the neighborhood, you do it anyway. And yeah, like this, I really think that's important to emphasize. Like, this is not that long ago. Like, there are plenty of people who remember, like, who lived this and remember it. It could just, like, be shopping at a store with them and they could tell you about it. Yeah. If you knew to ask, you know? It's just crazy to me that people want to act like this stuff was so long ago. And that because it's not on the surface, like, extreme. Maybe all the time, like this, I don't know, they want to act like
it's over.
It doesn't exist at all. Or like, now we're over it.
Yeah, it's not over.
Like, that's No. So the second Black homebuyer in Glenview was another prominent citizen. And we're going to hear from Tameka too. Like, one of the things that she loves about the neighborhood is that it really was and is full of prominent Black citizens in Memphis. Really important people in the community. Not only is it a beautiful neighborhood, but it really, like, the people that have lived... Anyway.
Yeah. Well, just her...
It is such,
in itself, what she and her son have accomplished is a great example of the important people that have chosen to live in that neighborhood, you know.
Yeah. Reverend R.W. Norsworthy was the minister at Mount Moriah Baptist Church and the Memphis NAACP leader.
Look at that.
So he bought a house in the 1800 block of Glenview. So,
he was the second one?
Yeah, he's the second home buyer. So the first home buyer was in the 1700 block. So a lot of the, like, freaking out seemed to be isolated to that section. But now that someone's in the 1800 block, like, the freak out expands.
Just one extra person.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Glenview Plan people would make statements and, like, say that the neighborhood wasn't suitable for Black homeowners, even though, like, they were, I mean, the people who were buying and trying to buy houses during this time were solidly middle class. Not that it should matter, but just to say, like, they were, like, on equal, if not above, like, economic footing.
Yeah.
In many cases than, like, the current white homeowners. So they would advocate for various annexation schemes, like to say, okay, this section of the neighborhood Black people can be in, but nowhere else, and segregation schemes. I mean, just like crazy. But then in 1959, Dr. and Mrs. Joseph W. Westbrook moved into the neighborhood. And they're interesting because Dr. Westbrook was later an area assistant superintendent of Memphis City Schools. So he was the first African-American to hold a school board position.
Look at that.
Yeah, and his wife, they were both educators, and his wife was a project director with Memphis City Schools.
Yeah.
So they were like the next people to move in. And then it really started to shift because you had the white homeowners trying to get out, sell their homes, and you had the Black homeowners they wanted to move into better neighborhoods for their kids, and like they wanted parks and things like that. And so, like, they wanted to move into neighborhoods like Glenview. I collected a little bit of a who's who.
Okay.
So Ruby Kaufman lived on Netherwood Avenue, and she was the first African-American writer for the Commercial Appeal.
Look at that.
She wrote for the Women's Page around 1969. She was also a really high-profile civil rights activist. There are a lot of civil rights activists in the neighborhood. Roscoe Williams lived on Foster Street, and he was one of the first Black policemen in Memphis. Marion Carter and Joe Scott were both players for the Memphis.
He was the first Black policeman?
Yeah.
It took that long to have a Black policeman?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, wow. I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. That was a little late reaction.
No. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay. So those two guys, Marion Carter and Joe Scott, they were players for the Memphis Red Sox, which was a baseball team under the Negro League. Okay. That's what it was called. It's very awkward to say, but I can't find another way to say it. So
yeah. It sounds like now, if I remember correctly, there are a lot of educators in the neighborhood. Is that right? Yeah.
A lot of educators. Okay, next up is Charlie Walton. Charlie Walton was the first African-American to work the polls at the Glenview precinct. And then, like, as you just said, pretty much the residents were teachers, educators. Most of them had really respected degrees, like really, really good degrees. And then several, like, post office workers and some factory workers were more... Like, it was mostly middle class, like, professionals. But then there was the post office workers, factory workers, that sort of thing. And they worked for, like, Harvester, people like that.
Yeah.
So finally we get to 1968, which was a landmark year for the neighborhood. And the moment when it really switched over from, like, a white neighborhood to a Black neighborhood. After the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968, the National Guard actually occupied Glenview. So that was one of the areas that they took over. The African-American residents had a curfew put on them, but the white residents didn't. They could move around freely, or they were escorted by the National Guard. And so the fact that the National Guard came in and that the Glenview neighborhood was part of that whole reaction to Dr. King's assassination sort of clued in the remaining white families that, okay, everyone thinks this neighborhood is a Black neighborhood.
Yeah.
So there was like a big push at that point to like sell homes and get out. And they would often leave them in bad repair.
Because you're saying it was a curfew on the whole neighborhood of Glenview. That's how they phrased it.
No.
It wasn't just black people.
No, it was a curfew just on the black people. The white residents could move around within the neighborhood.
Wow. Okay.
But it kind of like, I think what it's trying to say is that moment made them realize that, oh, outsiders see this neighborhood as black.
Okay.
Because like the National Guard came in and occupied it, and they were occupying black areas.
Got it.
And so they would leave like their homes with damage. Like a lot of it was intentional so that the new owners would have to repair it. There were instances of them like putting poop all over the walls.
Really?
To have to be cleaned by the new homeowners. Yeah.
People that were going to sell their home?
Yeah. Like they would sell it and then they would vandalize it before they left.
Wow. Okay. People can be mean.
Yeah. That is an integration story. Mm-hmm. And I really did not, like I said, I thought I was just going to kind of intro the episode, talk a little bit about the history of the neighborhood. And I know you'll hear us talk a little bit about this kind of stuff with Tramica, but it was just, there's so much more here than I thought. So this episode is going to be long. Yeah. But I think it's worth it. I mean, this is the story of this neighborhood is really a microcosm of so much American history and Memphis history and current events too, I think. Cause we'll learn about what the neighborhood's like now. We are going to, like I said, take a tour of Tramica's house. Mm-hmm. But this neighborhood is cool. They have home tours.
Yeah.
They host these home tours every once in a while, and you can go in and out of the houses and see them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's a beautiful neighborhood, and there's still a lot of really prominent families living there. I mean, it's really fascinating. And I remember, I mentioned tree lined, a lot of nature in these neighborhoods, so much so that they kept, I guess, super old trees when they were building it. Because I remember when we drove in, or Tramica took me over to Mount Zion Cemetery, which is going to be an upcoming episode. And either driving in or on the way over there, it's this giant tree had fallen over from, what was the storm called?
Tomley.
Yeah, the Tomley storm.
You mentioned home tours, and I hope that other people go into depth in the history of their home as Tramica did. Because what was so amazing about the tour with Tramica is she knew who the owners were from the beginning. And to be able to track down the history of your home that well is impressive. And she might be one of the very few people I know that's been able to do that.
She has all these old pictures.
Mm-hmm.
She really gathered a ton of information. I don't know. And she's kept so much of it as it was, but it's so interesting because she's also, we haven't mentioned this, I don't think, but Tramica is Mose Bose's mom.
That's right. And we don't even have to intro who that is, probably.
Yeah. So, he's our Memphis entrepreneur, went on Shark Tank. I mean, amazing. He's not really a kid anymore. Mm-hmm. But it's his mom that owns his house, and they both have decorated it together. Coming up next on the tape we're going to roll is our interview with Tramica. The three of us sat down to talk. She shares the history of her house, going all the way back to the first owners. And then she takes us all around and shows us how she and Mo have really kept the integrity and the history of the house, but mm-hmm. added their own, made their own mark on it as well. And we have lots of pictures, and we took them as we went through the tour in order. You'll probably even hear the shutter clicking on the tape. And so if you go to the show notes at memphistypehistory.com/Glenview, you can follow along and look at the pictures while you listen to the tour portion of this episode. We did try to describe things, so you may not have to look at the pictures as you listen, but we are going to put the pictures on there in order so that you can.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I get distracted when I'm on tours and I just start looking and I don't even think about
for real
what we're saying to explain what we're talking about.
That's it. So that's the history of the neighborhood. We're going to get some more from Tramica, especially the history of her particular home. And then you're going to hear us go on a tour with her.
Without further ado.
Keep listening. We're done with this part. All right. So we're here today to talk to you about your historic home. And why don't you describe for us where we're sitting and just kind of set the scene. And then we'll start letting you tell us about your home and your neighborhood and how that relates to the history of Memphis.
Well, we're sitting in the living room in my house that was built in 1950, custom built for a preacher and his wife. I can't remember the church that it was built or that he was the pastor of. And one of the most significant things in the living room is this painting, which was from my granddad's restaurant. Lee's Lounge from 1960, and it's been in our family since the 60s. It was in his first restaurant, and he then went on to have a couple of other restaurants. But I like to incorporate a lot of cultural themes in my living room, a lot of art. Of course, Mo, being an awesome kid, has received several awards, so we have tons of rewards.
Let me just break in here and make sure everyone knows this is Mo's Bo's mom here that we're getting
Mama
to talk
Mo,
to
they
here.
like to call me
Mama Mo.
Mo.
This is Mama Mo. Your living room is just beautiful.
Thank you.
It's got beautiful prints on the couches. You've got a lot of artwork here.
The hardwood floors have been through a lot, but they're still standing. And like I said, I told Caitlin I had pictures from the previous owner, and she sent, and you could see how amazing those floors.
Beautiful.
Those floors are there, and since the house was built in 1950, I am the third owner.
Okay.
I'm the third owner since then.
I love that you know the whole history of this.
Yeah.
And I actually bought the house from a lady who lived here with her two sisters, and I felt very connected because I have three sisters.
Okay.
And I felt very connected, and it's a 4-bedroom, 2-car garage. It's just over 2,000 square feet. And of course, it's a lot of space for just Mo and I.
Right.
But because I have such a big family, it was important for me to get a house with space.
Yes. Well, whenever they're here, that makes a big difference, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm looking at the picture of the living room here and looking at the floors and how some of the things have changed. The fireplace.
The fireplace, I just painted it red.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And you notice all the walls are white there. So, and Mo even said, he's like, oh, it looks so plain. I said, well, it's white walls. So that kind of, and they were teachers. They were all educators. And this neighborhood back in, I guess in I'm trying to see. This is a picture of the outside. 74. I want to say it was in the 70s that white flight started to happen. So a lot of African Americans started moving in, but they were prominent African Americans. So they were educators and postal workers and preachers that lived in the neighborhood. And actually, as the neighborhood, Glenview, the founder of Kojic of Church of God in Christ, his son was the first African American to actually move into the neighborhood.
Wow.
Over on Glenview Street.
Wow.
Can I ask real quick, is it common or was it common with Memphis neighborhoods that you would have areas where people of the same kind of career did kind of migrate in together?
Absolutely. Just based on class. Okay. So it's just because they could afford it a little bit more in certain neighborhoods, slowly but surely opened up to African Americans. So they were able to afford it. And so most of them, especially the educators, this is a huge, even now today I have friends who are teachers that live around the corner. So I think it's just one of those things that it started because teachers were able to afford the area. They moved in, and from there it just kind of kept going. And the ladies who I bought the house from all three were teachers.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then do you know much about their history owning the house? And then we can maybe talk about them, and then we can go back to the first owners, which is because you're the third owner.
I'm the third owner.
And then maybe you can tell us just whatever you know. We'll step back in time like that.
Yep. So the ladies that I bought the house from is actually just one lady. Her sisters had passed away. They moved in after a couple of husbands. Well, there were three ladies, and two husbands had passed away, and one lady was divorced.
Okay.
And she was married. She later married another preacher. She was a former first lady. And so she later married a preacher, which is pretty cool because I found a lot of letters I found love letters written, and he had written her from Chicago. He was in seminary school in Chicago.
Okay.
And I thought it was kind of funny that he wrote and said, even though you don't like to admit it, we've already consummated our love. So I was like,
You found some
what is up with that? Yeah, I found it and I actually framed it. I was like, what? So that was fun. And so those ladies, the lady who actually bought it from, she had 3 children.
Okay.
And a set of twins that were girls. And I found report cards. They were like honor students. And of course, me being who I am, I looked them up like now. And they're very successful attorneys. And I want to say they live out in California. The last I saw an article where they were on the cover of Jet magazine, I guess from being just scholars. They had received like some amazing, actually I take that back. One was an attorney and one's a doctor. They received like amazing scholarships or a lot of scholarships. Yeah. And so of course that really resonated with me because, and this is before I knew that Mo would be Mo's Bows. So it was just telling them, just
inspiration in this house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And it's like there's such. I mean, when I walked into the house, it was, and that was in 2007. It was filled with so much junk. I mean, you can tell like it just had not been taken care of.
Yeah, I was curious when you said you were able to find report cards. I was just curious. How did
there was so much stuff in this house,
and not just in the attic, like
just in the attic. It was just tons of stuff. Mo, do you remember how much stuff was in the house? Mm-hmm. It was junky, and he was little. I mean, I think so. Mo, he was a tiny kid. There was a hole in the ceiling, and I had on my wish list that I wanted a 2-story, I wanted a garage, I wanted a patio and a porch. And then one of my realtor was just like, okay, well, you have a champagne taste with a Kool-Aid pocketbook, so you're gonna need to, you're gonna need to settle on a few things. And I was like, I don't want to, Yeah. Of course, I wanted to be in the neighborhood. I wanted to be in Cooper Young, but not the price tag of Cooper Young. Okay. So this was just as good. And so, anyways, it was filled with stuff. And I came in. The owner of the house actually lived in Chicago. And her son is a doctor here, Dr. Bill Hurd. He's a eye surgeon and a jazz musician. And so I called her and she's like, my nephew, not her son, I'm sorry, her nephew. She said, my nephew has the keys and he can show you the house. And he showed me the house and I was like, oh my God, I love this house. He literally gave me the keys that same day.
Oh,
he just gave me the keys.
Love that.
I mean, literally, I couldn't do anything. Right. It was so much junk in here. It was just, it was insane. But I could see through the madness. I knew it had good bones. It had good structure. It didn't have a fence because I wanted a fence for Mo and a dog, and didn't have the front porch. But there's a patio.
Was Mo this time?
Mo, so that was 7 years? No. How many years ago?
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and he's 50, so he's 5.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, he was 5. I just remember seeing a picture of him in first grade underneath, like, my light switch. Like, taking a picture, he was standing underneath my light switch, and when he comes in now and he turns it on, he's like this much taller than, he's so much taller than a light switch. But I definitely wanted a house that he could grow in. So I was looking for something not just to quickly move. It was something that I wanted to really stay in the family.
Yes.
As long as possible. And I have lots of family, so. I bought it from the ladies, and she, like I said, she had 3 kids, 1 son and 2 daughters. I'm not sure about her son, but we talked extensively. Even after I bought the house, I called and checked on her in Chicago. Okay. That's where she lived.
Yeah. And then, so the people before them, the original owners.
The original owners were white, a white couple of a preacher and his wife. And as you walk through the house, you'll see, like, you could tell the wife had a lot to do with some of the detail. I've tried to keep it as much as possible, some of the original, right down to the original stove that they literally had to pry away from my kitchen. It just didn't work anymore. Yes. I fixed it as much as I could, and I still have it. And my boyfriend's like, what are you going to do with that? I don't know. I just want to hold on to it. Yes. It's just this huge stove. But I tried to keep it as much as possible. But you could see the custom aspects of, the bathroom knobs and it's so many mirrors. It was so many mirrors in the house, which I was just like, I'm sure later. This one, yeah,
On top of the
that was
fireplace?
one of the ones, yeah.
Okay.
I said you could tell that a lady had a lot to do with with designing the house. Just everything, the trash can has. And for the 50s, that was, I think they put a lot. And then for this to be the only house with an attached garage.
Oh, wow.
Because I believe they had a little more money as to do a custom build, versus some of the other homes. And I think this was actually the last house built. From talking to my neighbors, there was a corner store here that was demolished, and it was vacant for a long time. And then that's when the preacher and his wife came and bought the lot and built on it.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Is there anything else about the house, in particular the owners, that you want to talk about before we go through and do a tour?
There's something interesting. I don't know so much about the owners versus the house originally had 5 entrances.
Whoa.
Originally had 5 entrances. As you can see here, there was actually a screened-in porch. So that room used to be a screened-in porch for the first owners. And when the second owners bought it, it was just a bunch of ladies, and so they didn't think it was be safe for just to have an open porch and someone could just walk in. So they decided to close it off. And of course, I love being outside, so I attempted to try to get it open, but because we live in a historic district now, there's a lot of permits and all this other good stuff that you have to go through in order to. I'm like, but I just want to turn it back
not
to
enough.
I know. I was like, I just want to turn it to the original, to the original photo. So,
All right, anyone in charge of that stuff who's listening to this, you need to get on this porch problem.
And it's such a nice screened-in porch. So
And this year, is this closer to what the house looked like when you moved in?
yes, it was
70s,
just
80s.
Yeah, it looks like 82 is what it says
82?
on the
Okay.
or 2002. I'm sorry, no, this says 2002. And then we're gonna go in. We'll do a little tour, but the pastor's study, there was an entrance that was closed off, so that's there, right on the outside there,
So that people could come in privately, I guess. Okay.
Absolutely.
So that leaves 3 more entrances.
Yep. So the screened-in porch had one. Mm-hmm. So that's the front door, 1, 2, 3, and then there's 2 on the back, on the back of the house. It's funny because it looks big. It looks small, but then when you get in, on the front.
I think this looks big.
Yeah, on the front it looks kind of small, but when you get in, you're like, wait a minute, what's happening in here? So, yeah. And then the lady who I bought it from was, again, she was a preacher's wife. So, of course, they dressed really nice. So she left a lot of old clothes in the house that I've gone through. And I've given some to one of my friends who has a vintage boutique, and I've kept some others that I cannot wear, but just having a lot that's original to the house is very important to me, including a bunch of pictures. And
it's amazing to me that so much was left behind, even through another resident who was here, and then stayed through until.
And then after the lady who she moved to Chicago, she actually started renting it out to some other students, or not students, to some other local teachers who just really didn't take care of it. So that's when she decided to. I think there was like a small fire or something here at some point, and it has an attic fan too, and we'll see that. And I can smell like the residue from the fire when I turn that attic fan on. Wow! But that's what they used to cool off the house back in the day when they didn't have AC units. Okay. And then one other thing as far as the exterior of the house, there were, and I don't know if you can see. There were like bars. They put, of course, bars on the. I don't even what do you call them? Like the wrought iron bars.
Are they like security bars?
Security bars. Okay. But they decided to do something. The ladies that I bought the house from decided to do something really cool, and they did some custom bars for the outside of the house that weighed so much. Like literally, my uncle went, because I was like, these windows are so beautiful. Let's remove those security bars. Yeah. And then I was like, it's the front of the house. If someone's coming in the house and through the front, then seriously, So, but when my uncle went to remove the bar, like it literally took him to that's how heavy it was. And I asked the previous owner about them, and she said that of course, they paid a lot of money for them. And one year, a guy from New Orleans came and knocked on the door and asked to buy like all of all of this major heavy wrought iron. And, of course, they refused to sell it. But I thought that was pretty interesting that they had, they put so much in it. They were huge and they were very beautiful. A lot of detail into those bars. And you'll notice, too, the outside address. So the 1957 is very clear.
Yes, it is.
Right there. And then on here, you can't really see it. And even right down to the street signs is different.
Yeah.
And then the nice little car there as well. Yeah, it's rich history in this house. I just love it.
So cool.
And then I have one of my granny's best friends knew the ladies that lived here, and because she's also an educator, and she just remembered she said that there was a piano. I don't see any pictures of it. She said that there was a piano in the house, and of course I don't play piano, but when I heard that, I saw one and then estate sale, because I love going to estate sales, for $75, and I was like,
no way.
I was like, I need that piano.
Piano for $75.
For $75. I mean, I guess they were just trying to get rid of it. But luckily, my boyfriend is a musician and he plays keys, so I get to enjoy that.
Oh, good.
So even though I don't play.
It's a tuned piano then.
Mm-hmm. And he plays, he plays pretty well. So that's the history I know as far as the owners and them purchasing the house.
So let's talk about the Glenview neighborhood. And why don't you tell us about this? I think this is probably a neighborhood a lot of us don't really know much about. Mm-hmm. I hadn't heard of it before talking to you. Yeah. And so I would love to just get schooled.
Yeah, Glenview, this neighborhood, like I said, when I first moved here, and I moved to Memphis, I think in 2004. And to the neighborhood in 2007, but I literally stalked the neighborhood just because of the different style of homes. I did not want to be in a neighborhood where there were cookie cutter homes.
Yes.
And I told my mom, I was like, if I have to live out east, I'd probably wake up every day and cry. And not just just like in a neighborhood where it's just brand new. But I love the tree shaded streets. Like that was huge. And just knowing that just on this very street, Joe Scott, who was part of the first Negro baseball league, lived on this street. Wow. Erlise Taylor, who's just a renowned opera singer, lived in this neighborhood. Tennessee.
He currently lives?
She currently lives here.
An opera singer.
She does amazing. She's an amazing singer. She lives on Glenview, and there's a historical marker on Glenview Street. Yeah, there's a historical marker on Glenview Street where one of Tennessee Williams' plays was done on a house in the backyard, and I think that house is actually on. It's 1780. Yeah, 1780 Glenview. So yeah, like I said, it has a historical marker in the neighborhood. So, and like I mentioned before, the son of the founder of Kojic actually lived on that street. They didn't stay very long just because they were the first African American family. So of course they had I think there was a cross burned in their yard, and the neighbors didn't take too well to them. So they eventually moved out of the neighborhood, but it's still, they couldn't stop it. So African Americans still eventually moved in, and now and for a long time it's really considered now a historically Black neighborhood. But now you really couldn't tell because it's mixed now. Like our neighbors are, they're white, and across the street is a drug rehabilitation center that used to be a hospital for sick children. Okay. But it's a very expensive and exclusive place next door. Like it's expensive to be over there. But so anyways, you can just see now that the neighborhood has gone from, of course, an all white neighborhood to an all Black neighborhood to now in 2017 it's a mixed neighborhood. So which is great.
Yeah, that's great to see.
And this is just a flyer of a home tour when I was the chairperson for the home tour that I put together back in 2009. And so, this was in 2009. I moved in 2007, so it didn't take me long to jump in there and and start. I've been vice president. I've been the reporter for several years. I've been treasurer. I've just been whatever I can do to keep the association, the neighborhood association, which I think we're coming up on our 50 years of the actual association.
It's great.
And it says here that this neighborhood has a really nice mix of homes, like architectural examples, bungalows, craftsman, colonial, Dutch colonial, Tudor, Spanish Revival. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm. Can just come and walk the streets and see a bunch of different types of homes.
Absolutely. And the porches. Yeah, only Memphis and the porches. Yeah. That's what I love about the neighborhood. Just so many different, the amazing porches that they have, with some with ceiling fans. And it's just a great neighborhood.
Yeah. How would you describe sort of like the atmosphere or the feel of this neighborhood throughout time? I'm not from, I didn't, grow up in Memphis. I only moved back since 2004. So from what I understand, it's a bunch of African Americans who have left the homes to their children or grandchildren. So it's kind of still in the family for the most part. But again, most of us choose to live in Cordova or Collierville. And so some of the homes have just been kind of left to do, whatever. So, but as far as the feel of the neighborhood, the neighbors, they take care of their yards, and they're mostly older too. They're still mostly older neighbors, but it's still hit or miss. So like this block is really great, but if you go maybe 2 blocks down, you may not want to stay in that area too long. But then like the mayor, AC Wharton, lives literally around the corner here. So it's just, right on Parkway. So it's just a hit or miss, but because we have the neighborhood association, we're able to kind of, keep, I don't want to say control, but just pay attention to when there's blight and really act. We spring into action when there's an overgrown yard, or even right down to like garbage cans hadn't been picked up yet. So like I've gone down and just picked up garbage can and taken them back of some houses that were abandoned. And so, it's just the neighborhood association mainly is the reason why I think the neighborhood continues to thrive. We host an annual fundraisers, and this was a fundraiser as far as the garden walk and the home tour. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about the general importance of historically black neighborhoods in Memphis? Is that something you feel like?
You said the general importance of historically black neighborhoods? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find that Memphis, we get a bad rap. And I don't know, I feel because of the civil rights, of course, and Dr. Martin Luther King being here, I feel like there's been some kind of gloom over the city. A lot of the folks that are originally from Memphis don't particularly care for it for some reason. But I think it's important to showcase African-American history or African-American neighborhoods, just to show, if nothing else, our children that there's rich history in this city. And from what I've read, Memphis is what the American South is, one of the main cities of what the American South was made of back in the day. It was based off of. Folks looked to Memphis for fashion, for food, for culture, for music, for religion, for pretty much for everything. It wasn't really just, Atlanta and New Orleans. Like Memphis was the stuff at one point. But then, a lot of stuff happened and that kind of changed. But I think it's important to showcase neighborhoods like this, just to show the diversity of the rich history in Memphis.
You were talking about people, still going out to Cordova or wherever. Do you feel like that's, decreasing a little more and more, or do you still feel like people are?
I feel like it's decreasing a little more and more. I know, especially since we have like a thriving downtown now. A lot of folks moving more downtown. Of course, Cooper Young is amazing, and this neighborhood, I know a couple people who just recently, and folks like my age. Typically, it's like I said, it's an older neighborhood, so. I don't know, African-American men and women in their 80s and 90s. And it's crazy, but every time I go to one of the meetings, it's like a moment of silence because someone has passed away. Because they, like folks love it. They live here until they, So I think it's definitely coming back. And again, because Cooper Young is a little cluttered as well as expensive. This is literally right over the tracks. It's the next best thing to me. And it's still close to everything. It's really close to downtown. It's close to everything. It's just that because it's literally in the heart of the city, you get the airport. So because we do a lot of filming for TV shows, we're always having to pause because of airplanes. And then we're surrounded by like 3 major trains. And then because it is the inner city, we get a lot of loud music and sirens. So
that's the sounds of Memphis.
It's the sounds of Memphis.
People talk about the blues and rock and roll. Like, no, it's trains and planes and music.
It's everything. And it's, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like the train to me now is just, it means, it's very soothing actually in the airplane. So, it was the perfect place for us to move. So, and then even with now Mo being, an international brand at this point, everyone's like, oh, I know you're going to move to Collierville or you're going to move out to Cordova. It's like, no.
You're thinking I might pass this down to Mo.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. If he decides he wants to, stay in the city or move back to the city. But I definitely want his grandchildren, or his children even to see the amazing things that he's done living here.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
When you can pass down in your family where you all started.
Yeah. And it's so cool, like, just to come back around to even the beginning of our conversation, like how y'all became a part of the history of this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that,
absolutely.
That history of like people making change, doing stuff, and like that's it's very cool.
So of all the neighborhoods, I'm glad this one was one that I didn't even know had the history that it did.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we chose this. But I think even just with Mo's Bows and everything that's happened, the most amazing thing for me and what I'm most proud of is the fact that his bow ties have been inducted into the Tennessee State Museum. Yeah. So to have them there and have his grandchildren to have family history in a magazine in a museum is. And Mo's just like, but I'm at the president. I'm like, but you're tough.
Does he not realize how big this is?
That is, so, and that happened a couple years ago. I was just like, everything else kind of, it's great. But this is because I'm so passionate about just family history, culture history, and just history, period. So that's one of the coolest things.
And you told us earlier that Mo himself is pretty active in the home. He likes to rearrange furniture.
Yes.
Take an active part.
He's very active in decorating. He's very active in choosing color. And because he's a designer, he is an artist. And when you'll go around the house, I still have artwork of his from when he was, 2 and 5 and in school. And it's framed. And that's for me, showcasing him as an artist, as a designer, and just understanding when he was, 4 and said, I want to start doing ties or I want to start dressing really nice. It was important for me to utilize the resources that I have, utilize the family and the village of people that I built for him to pull that out, to nurture those talents and gifts that he imagined in his head. So when he was 4 years old or 9 years old.
So young.
And
I love that you curated that. And the way that you made this house too, it shows that you have such a great design aesthetic as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I feel like I'm an artist, but I'm like, of what sorts? I don't draw, I don't paint. I used to write poetry a while ago, but I think for me, I want pieces that make me feel a certain way. And it looks like I passed that down to Mo when we first came into the house. I said, there's something about this house that speaks to me, Mo. Yeah. And he's, 5. So he's like, Mama, houses don't talk. And it's like, houses don't talk. I was like, no, but this house, it speaks to me. And later on, when he started the business, I heard him saying to someone who was interviewing, he's like, I don't know, I just look for fabric that speaks to me. I was like, oh, okay. Fabric don't talk, Mo. So he's and we do a lot of estate sale shopping. So he definitely understands and appreciates the classic prints and classic vintage and historic district, just because he's just kind of been stuck with it. through his mom.
Yes. We could go ahead and do a little walkthrough tour, and then if Mo wants to jump on and tell us his feelings on the house, we'd love
absolutely.
Or a little story or a favorite room or something like that. That'd be great. Yeah, so we're going to take a little tour now with Tramica. She's going to show us around her house, point out her favorite things, favorite little historical pieces, show us what she's done decorating-wise, and I think y'all are going to love it. So if you go to memphistypehistory.com/Glenview, GLENVIEW, you can see show notes and photos of our house tour that we're about to go on.
Perfect.
Let's roll.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So I like to start my tour when we. I love giving tours, even of people who don't even ask for tours of my house. I like to give tours of the house, but I like to start in the living room, obviously, and point out the crown molding at the top. Again, original to the house, the fireplace as well, and then the ceiling, which I don't know really what that tile is, but I did find some extras in the attic, and I was able to use some of those to replace in my bedroom. It's the same in the bedroom and in the ceiling. I mean, in the living room. And then right here, right off of the living room is what used to be that screened-in porch, which has now been just storage now. So that's that. And then they put. What is that? Paneling. Put the wood paneling in. Also, there's the chandelier is still the original chandelier here, and the matching one in the dining room. And I like to. I have these Bibles that I'm especially excited about. They belong to my great grandfather, who was a preacher in Mississippi.
Wow. And these are Bibles that you keep on top of your piano. I forget that this is not video.
Oh, yeah. Yes. These are Bibles that I got from Granny that I keep on top of the piano. So any type of family history, I'm always excited to have and showcase.
I love this detail. You've got 3 rows columns of tea light candles that I actually made as a home DIY project that I saw. And when I lived in Minneapolis, I went to a restaurant and they just had these really cool tea lights, and it's pretty cool because when at light there, with my walls being just a goldish yellow, with the tea light being a red candle holder, it illuminates a nice bright red onto the yellow. Smart. And so the whole thing lights up. And I like to try to keep, I think my colors are like a yellow and red, and then I like to throw in pops of like blue and oranges. And this painting, actually, my aunt gave me that someone had gave her, and it's a kitchen. Looks like a kitchen cabinet that someone has just done an amazing abstract of a painting to. And she's like, I don't know what to do with it. I was like, I do. So it's a perfect spot for it.
So that's beautiful. And this son, as well as that picture, both were in my granny's first restaurant, and that was located on Lauderdale Avenue in Memphis in the 60s. So that sun
artwork on the wall.
I love that sun. It's it gives me a lot of energy.
Yeah,
it's nice and bright.
It's beautiful.
And the restaurant, what was it like?
I don't know. I do have pictures of it. It was called Lee's Lounge. I later turned one of my bedrooms upstairs to Lee's Lounge. I turned it and it's just a place for us to hang out and listen to records and have beer.
So great. Does this record player work?
No, that doesn't.
That's beautiful.
Mo actually bought that for me one Mother's Day. And so we'll go into what we call our office now, what was the pastor's study. We've kept obviously the paneling that was in here, and I'm trying to see if we stand here, we'll be able to see the picture that I got from.
So that's this room then.
This is this room.
Oh wow!
And so it had orange. And this chair actually was still left in the house, and so I do have that chair upstairs as well. So this is obviously where we do all of our magic. This is where the production of or the processing of
Shark Tank. That's where y'all started, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. I love that.
So this was obviously their den. At one point, this was the den for us too, and actually we had a blue couch when we first moved here that would sit on this side of the room. Mm-hmm. And I remember when we coming up with Mo's Bows, trying to figure out the name of the company. Mo was like, I just want to start making bow ties. And my boyfriend was like, what do we want to call it? And Mo walks in and said, Mo, should we say Mo's Bow Ties or Bow Ties by Mo? And just as a matter of fact, he says, let's just call it Mo's Bows. I'm like, yeah. He's like, my name is Mo, and that makes sense. So,
he had that was the X factor from the beginning.
Just really quick, and I was like, and we had been thinking about it for a long time. Like, what do we want to call it? And then this is closed off here, but this is another door that leads to the hallway.
Okay.
And so we have.
Now, did you sew too, or?
No, I had to learn how to sew when Mo decided when we decided to do the business, because he'd be 9 years old with orders, but he wanted to go out and play football with his friends. So in my mind, I'm like, we gotta, and then he's like, can't you do it? Well, I don't know how to sew. So I had to learn how to sew in order to keep up with orders. So
you've done a great job.
Bow ties is about it. So we'll go down here to the hallway. Great closet. It was just full of crap. I don't even know if I can even open it anymore.
Doors are original, aren't they?
Yes, original doors, absolutely.
And you've got wide. Is this wood paneling? Really wide wood paneling, or what is?
I'm not sure. This is wallpaper. It's definitely wallpaper, but.
Okay.
I don't know what's behind it. I mean, it's just wall. But you could see, that it's definitely wallpaper, and I want to say maybe even painted over.
Okay, yeah, because it's got some kind of regulars.
Yeah.
But it looks like. And then you've got a bunch of pictures here in the hallway.
I have a bunch of pictures in the hallway.
Great choice of photos.
Yeah,
So
and
they're
I
all
think
like
this
black
was
and white.
black and white photos of great musicians. Capleton's a reggae musician, of course, the Jackson 5, Bob Marley, Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder. But sprinkled into my collage of black and white photos are photos of my family as well. So there's a picture of Mo and I when he was younger, a picture of Mo and his friend in Minneapolis, and then right in the center is a photo of my dad with Mo and my brother. So it's interesting that Mo's uncle is a month younger than him. And then a picture of my sister. So it was important for me to include family photos in with the other great musicians and other greats here, just to show Mo that, for me, he comes from greatness. You come from a line of people who were innovators, who were, amazing musicians, who were entrepreneurs. And so for me, he grew up seeing these images as if, that's who I am. That's what I'm destined to do. That's what I'm destined to be. I'm going to be great like the Jacksons, whether it's music or not. And he just happened to be great at fashion. But just having his photos in with of celebrities was done on purpose.
Yeah.
Was done on purpose. And then we have a candle, a turtle lamp that was gifted to me for a birthday gift. I've collected turtles since I was 15.
Was this originally stationed for a phone?
It is a phone book. Yes, absolutely. Again, one of the very cool features that drew me to the house. It's like, oh my God, it's a telephone book.
So darling.
It is.
So that. That's original to the house as well. And then we are here in Mo's room. Mo, are you here? This is Mo's room. Which, can we come in or just get?
It's totally fine if we.
This room. Mo, do you want to share a little bit about your room?
Well, I changed my room about 3 different times. First it was like off-white, and then it was blue, and then it was orange, and it'll probably be like blue again.
You don't mind changing the color?
No.
He changes the color. How often do you change your furniture around?
I just changed it around yesterday.
Yeah, you just yesterday.
Pretty much every month.
And what about this painting above your bed, Mo? Or this picture above your bed?
My dad gave me this vintage antique painting from my grandmother.
From your I think it was his great grandmother who recently passed away. So his dad brought that that photo, and I was surprised that Mo was like,
those people in the family? Or?
No, it was just a picture that was at her house. Yeah, I was surprised that he cared enough to even, because I was thinking, okay, great, now we're gonna have to put this, we're gonna have to find a place to put this painting, but I came in and he had already somehow nailed it to the to the wall. I said, are you gonna keep it? He's like, yeah, he's gonna keep it with him. So, which is great. So he's kind of done his own decorating. I see a picture of him when he was, I think, 3, in a nice little suit above the window. Looks like one of his awards that he's received, the key to the city, and when we went to Lafayette, Louisiana. Yeah. And then Mom is a bit of a hoarder, and I like to say Mo is a bit too. I've kind of passed that down. Is that right, Mo, or no?
Yeah, you have.
So he collects stuff, and I'm always like going through. It's like, you can throw this away, and he's like, no, I want to hold on to that.
I just recently added this couch to the room.
So I like the couch.
Very fun, and I decorated with lights too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Love it. And your door.
Oh yeah, I love the door.
Very personalized.
Yeah.
How long have you been putting stickers on there?
I want to say since I moved in, but I had a weird obsession with Miley Cyrus.
It's Miley Cyrus.
That's the one.
A weird obsession.
My eyes went first to Miley.
Miley Cyrus, get out, adore you. Yeah, he's just, and I think that's been one of the big things about our house. There are like no rules when it comes to decorating.
Love it.
We write on the walls, we paint any color. There's no rhyme or reason. So, and then this is a really cool piece that one of his first pieces he got from Frank Robinson, who is an amazing artist here in Memphis. So Mo picked that out. I think he was probably like,
and he did the picture in the bathroom.
Yeah, we'll see the back. And Mo picked that out. That was something special for him that he picked out when he was like 10. And I was just interested that he cared enough about art versus like little trinkets that was able to be, that they were selling at a market. And he picked that up, and of course lots of little stickers.
Thank you.
Thanks. Can I take a couple pictures in here? Is that okay with you? Mm-hmm. I just want to get this. I'll follow when I get this.
So we have 4 bedroom, 2 bath. I can't remember the name. 4 bedroom, 2 bath, and we only recently changed from a pedestal sink to this bigger vanity because the sink just got too old and it couldn't.
It's a smart move though. You get more storage space.
Yeah, more storage space in it. And then this is the painting. This is another from a local artist that is just amazing.
I recognize this.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It says, "My life matters. Stop the war against Black people." And I bought this. He looks like he did it in 2014. I bought it maybe a year ago, but I bought it with in mind that I would send it off to college with Mo. It would be something from the house that he would take. And then I really like the fact that it had a bow tie.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yes,
I like the fact that it had a nice colorful bow tie. So. And then this room was like a really weird teal blue, and we painted the walls white, and I just haven't been decided on what, but the tile here is still, and then of course this little heater. This is a nice heater that heats up.
In the bathroom.
So this is the bathroom. It's 2 bath, 4 bedroom. And actually, because the study or our office has a closet, it's considered a bedroom as well.
Oh, right. So even in the 50s, that's the way it was considered.
Right.
A closet was a bedroom.
So technically,
that's why our house didn't have very many closets.
Right. Yeah. And then I have a couple of paintings in the hallway. One that my friend Lewis Burton actually did of me.
Wow.
Kissing a mystery man.
A mystery man.
Whatever that is.
We all need one of those paintings.
It's a really nice, I guess, what is it? Just drawing?
It's drawing. It's a pencil drawing, but on like a nice floral
really
paper.
The paper is very nice.
So it's really unique looking. I just want to make sure we describe it because I'm going to include a picture in the show notes, but I don't know if it'll translate, so I want to make sure everyone knows.
So this is a work in progress here. I'm in the process of changing the color from green, which is my favorite color, to, I was thinking of a blue, but because I love green so much,
this is nice.
I'm thinking either I keep the color, just redo it, or go with another green. So, and so this is my bedroom that I like to call my sanctuary when it's clean and it's not really got stuff all over the place. But I like to bring in vintage pieces or antique pieces with modern pieces. And this face bowl is actually been in our family again since I want to say since the 50s. I'm not sure who bought it, but it came from my uncle who passed away to my aunt, and then she gave it to me. So,
and it's the kind that are the little portable sinks with the oval mirror,
with the mirror, and then little candle.
That's what I wondered.
And then a space for the
your towels.
For the towels, yeah. And again, it's pretty dusty, but
super portable. Something you'd only see in an antique shop, probably.
Yeah, and
definitely
it has
not
a nice bowl
nowadays.
filled with lotions and soaps that we collected
on the shelf below. And your little collection of turtles.
I've been collecting turtles, and I've had so many. I've had so many turtles that I've started actually for birthday gifts, kind of regifting. Yeah. Because I'm just like, when Mo's granny passed away, she had so much stuff. She had been collecting, I think, owls and rabbits or something, and they were just kind of left in our house. And I said, literally, you can't take it with you. And I've enjoyed these turtles, so I just, when it's an anniversary or a birthday, in addition to a real gift, I've been regifting some of my turtles that just, fit the personality of friends, and I think the last I counted, I had 50. So I'm like, it's time. Since high school, I've been collecting them. So I was like, it's time to start getting rid of these. So I like to incorporate again, vintage as well as like new prints. So those chairs I got from
the chairs are gorgeous.
Sale. That's an old sewing machine here that it's a Singer sewing machine.
The kind that you pedal with your foot or like back
in my mind initially, it's so cluttered now, but in my mind initially I thought about turning it into like a vanity and having like a little mirror. That project just never came about. But this hat is dusty as it is, was original to the house, so that was part of one of the one of the pieces that was left from the previous owner. She had so many great clothes. I decided to take the hat and kind of incorporate it into
it looks good next to that floral record player.
Which
very nice.
And then another thing, of course, another really great mirror. But there's two closets in here, which was great because most of the homes and my neighbors complain about not having enough closet space.
That's right.
So to get two closets in the master bedroom was pretty good, and it's a nice size too. It just kind of stretches.
It's
really
very nice.
The size of the side of the house. So that brings us to the kitchen,
which is in the back of the house.
I don't know much about this. Nothing much to say about this besides, again, they made me get rid of my stove.
The counters are fun red.
Yeah, the counters are red, and this was was original to the house. They had red, and I think there was two red chandeliers. Really hard, really heavy, and I want to say I still have one of them that were here. Two light fixtures, one here, one here. Mo recently broke that one, but all of the cabinets, I just wanted to kind of keep as much as possible.
I've never seen a refrigerator look like this before.
Really? Yeah. I bought this one specifically because it's called entertainment refrigerator, so you can actually put margarita mix, or Kool-Aid, or lemonade, or iced tea, or whatever you want on the side of there. But
I'm gonna look up entertainment refrigerator.
Entertainment refrigerator. And what's really cool is what I have, literally, I think is my most prized possession in the house, are these glasses that I got from my granny. She held on to these. I have 6 of them. She held on to these. These were from the 50s. In the 50s, Tide washing powder would give these in their washing powder. Like it came with the laundry detergent.
What a nice gift.
Yeah. It's an actual glass with a really cool lady on it. And Granny held on to all these, 6 glasses. She never drank out of them. She just held them. And I'm like, Granny, why were you holding? She's like, I just thought it was thought it was pretty nice. And I said, Granny, how would you know to hold on to these glasses? And then you'd have a granddaughter who loves vintage things with a house that was built in the 50s with a red kitchen. So I was like, I need those glasses. So she gave me those glasses.
They are glass. I was thinking maybe they were plastic. They are glass.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. You take a picture, so yeah, this is the kitchen. It's kind of small in my opinion, but again, it works for us. It gets the job done. Yeah. It really gets the job done. Our neighbor is an artist behind us, so she came over and she penciled the outline of this phrase, and then Mo and I went back and painted a nice, I guess teal blue. The phrase that says "the pride of a nation is its youth." It's a Swahili proverb, and it matches the ceiling in that same blue. Of course, along with the curtains that we have. And it's just important for me to have a lot of color in the house. And again, like I said, there's no rules, so put what you want on the on the wall. And then this back here is a complete mess, but this is where those 2 entrances.
Okay.
There's another 2 entrances here, so that puts us at 1 and 2. So that goes out to the back patio, and that goes out to the backyard. And then
Do you know anything about these floors?
I don't know anything about the floors. I know it was done from the second owners, and they did this tile along with the tile this same tile was on the front porch, leading up to the front porch.
Okay.
Actually, I think it's still on the front porch, but there was a walkway leading up to the front porch that they did this. And this is something that, like because even my granny has it. She did it in the 70s. This is something that was really popular, like the broken tile look was really really popular in the 70s. And this is one of those paintings that I've saved of Mo's, a masterpiece by Mosiah Bridges. And then this is obviously the dining room. This is the dining room, which is I don't know, I kept the white walls that they had initially in here and painted one wall yellow. Very excited about this sideboard, this black sideboard it was wood initially, and I painted it black and added some yellow. Oh,
you painted this?
Yeah,
that's great.
I painted that black and added some yellow knobs on it to kind of go. And this is where it's really crappy the way it's fixed up, but this is where that hole was. That's where that hole in the house was. And even my mom was just like, I can't believe you're gonna buy that house. There's a hole in the ceiling, because you can't fix holes apparently in the ceiling. So this is one of my favorite rooms, just because there's been so many dinners around the table, and talking with the previous owner, and she was saying how she enjoyed the dining room because, I mean, especially as an African American family in the South, cooking is huge. You know, my dad's a chef, my granny owned restaurants and lounges, so food is very important to us. So we've had many birthday dinners and just many great dinners around the dining room table. And then because my house is centrally located, this is where we've had several baby showers and bridal showers and birthday parties, and tons of celebrating has taken place in this in this house because of the size and because it's centrally located. And then we could head upstairs. So I'm like, this is a great office.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Dream office.
Yeah. Jeez. And I chose the yellow color because it's supposed to, spark creativity. So.
Yeah. Who made the painting up there?
Sir Walt, there's a guy that does mud work. So he uses like the mud that you fix on houses with or whatever. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about? That.
What is that called? I guess that's just mudding. Yeah, mudding the wall.
But he uses that, and he creates these amazing paintings. And so he did that of Mo for, I want to say it's his 13th birthday. which is pretty cool. But okay, so I'm
very cool piece.
Yeah. And here I'll show you really quick. This is the Leaf Lounge. So we have record, and basically what happens is I have my friends come in and they write their names on the back of the door to kind of pay tribute to their grandparents, because Lee was my granddad. So we have tons of, you can see here, tons of signatures and whatnot on the back of the door.
This is essentially
so cool.
Yeah, so this is my idea of what Lee's Lounge would have been. We put the grandparents either on the door, it looks like it's some room there on the door, but we also do sayings as well. So either, you do your grandparents
from
or
the grandparents.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So these are our grandparents.
And that's how Lee's did it?
Lee, well, no, this is just my thing, because Lee is my grandfather and Lee's Lounge was from him. So we decided, so of course this is Lee here, Lee Walker Sr. So I have like all of my different generations here. But so yeah, this is for to write your grandparents. And then, we've had sayings of music lyrics and all that other stuff on the wall as well. I was up here one day and I was thinking, what if the same way I knew people who came and wrote on the wall, like, what if these people knew each other? There was the Bogart brothers and Fat Sonny, great sax player from Orange Mound. Yeah, this was another bedroom, which again, great mirrors.
I know. They're everywhere.
Oh, these mirrors. One of the upstairs bedroom, and then just again the size.
Yeah.
The size of the bedrooms are really nice, and the closets.
And you get those extra tall ceilings. You've got or at least it's got the roof line ceilings.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is really awesome office.
And this is a table that was actually given to me as a housewarming. And one of my friends, her parents had it in their house from the 50s. And again, I told her, it's like, my kitchen's red. And she said, I have this vintage table that I'd love to give you. So that stayed in the kitchen for a very long time. And we just recently moved it up here.
It's so cute.
And my boyfriend actually made this desk for me. I said, I want something just plain and simple, but it turned out really, really great. So I'm so excited about it. I can actually get work done too.
Yes, for real. Having your own space makes a big difference.
Makes a huge difference. Oh, and this is the attic fan too. Have you heard of the attic fan?
No.
So basically what happens is you let all the windows up, and the attic fan, it sucks all of the air, all of the hot air out of the top of the house and pulls cool air in through the window. So we'll try it out. If you stand here.
Whoa.
Isn't that amazing?
It's like a windstorm.
Yeah. It feels so good. Oh, so it needs some tuning, but
that is incredible.
I love sitting there just feeling that breeze come through.
Yes, this is incredible to me. I had no idea.
And that's what they used to cool off the house back in the day, before they had like window units or central air. And then just in here, you can kind of feel a cool breeze.
It is cool.
Yeah, and you open up all the doors and all of the windows, and you just kind of let it's taking all the hot air out, and the cool air is kind of coming in.
That is incredible.
So that was the thing when I said when I turned it on, you could smell though, like there was you could tell that there was like a fire at some point. So yeah, that's the very pink bathroom that the ladies painted because their daughters, I told you they had two girls.
Yes.
That lived in each of the bedrooms, so that was their bathroom.
Well, this has been fantastic. I have to say, I love the history in general. I think my favorite parts personally have been all the artwork that you've collected here and that attic fan.
Oh, and the attic fan?
I just find that really incredible because, you go in older houses these days and you think, oh, how did they stand it without air conditioning? But then you start to uncover the way they were built and stuff like that. Really
Which
did.
is great. And it just feels good to sit I would sit next to the, in front of the window in one of those old rocking chairs and just kind of let that breeze come in.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, so yeah, I think that is the tour. Sorry, it's a little long-winded there, but
No, that was great. And we'll have pictures on show notes at memphistypehistory.com/Glenview, and you can see Tramica's home and everything we've been talking about. And that is Memphis Type History, the podcast.
we like your type.
You've been listening to Memphis Type History, the podcast. It would mean so much to us if you head over to iTunes and give us a rating and review. Be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode.
Want to be part of Memphis Type History and get behind-the-scenes content, merch, and more? Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Memphis Type History. That's Patreon, spelled patreon.com/Memphis Type History.
Find more Memphis Type History on our blog at memphistypehistory.com, on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest as Memphis Type History, and on Twitter at Memphis Type. For all you listeners out there, I just want to send out a quick shout out to our supporters on Patreon, patreon.com. You've probably heard us mention it at the end of every episode because we cannot survive after a certain amount of time unless you help support us. Because when the money runs out, that means we're going to have to stop. And the truth is we don't want to necessarily stop because there's so much information in Memphis to cover. And you can be one of those supporters for just $1 a month. That's all it takes. It's as little as that, $1 a month. And if we get enough of you to do that, we can cover all our expenses. If you feel really generous, you can donate more than that. You can donate up to $1,000 a month if you really want to. $5, $10. Go to patreon.com, patreon.com/Memphis Type History. Check out the goodies that you can get for being a supporter. And like I said, with just $1, you get something. Moral of the story. Support us. Go to patreon.com/Memphis Type History. Look at the stash of goodies we have to offer. Decide which one you want most to make your heart the most happy. And just know that your heart's happy make our hearts happy. Thank you.